Greg Mills, welcome to Second Nature. Nice to meet you.
Good to be here. I've been following the pod for a while and I love what you guys are doing. So it's great to be a small part of it. Appreciate it.
Lucy, where should we start, buddy?
Honestly, I think we got to dive right into the Kitworks story. I think that what's going to inspire the most people listening to this podcast is understanding how you went from concept to execution with something that was, in the back of your head for probably a very long time. Can we go before the actual launch of the business though to the seed of the idea? Like what made you say, I got to stop everything I'm doing and start focusing on this idea and start making it a real thing? I got to, sort of get off, this path and get on this other path. I think that's a really important place to start because so many of the people in our audience are probably in or near or headed towards that very moment right now. And I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, people can take a little bit of from this experience to, I don't know, take the leap to build the thing that they want to see in the world. Well, first off, I'll describe what Kitworks is. Since we are 7 months old right now, we launched the company in December 17th of 24. So a lot of you may not know about us, but Kitworks is an outdoor gear management company. So we launched with a system of modular gearboxes, totes, duffels, kind of like all these products that we carry our gear from the gear garage to the trailhead to do the things that we like to do. But we saw an opportunity to actually make that a more user-driven experience. So like rather than buying a mountain bike specific bag or throwing your gear in a plastic bin, we're building organization first, totally customizable, super burly products that can adapt to like whether you're moving from like trail run season to ski season, or you're moving from like getting your family up to the ski hill to a 3-week road trip, climbing and mountain biking through the desert Southwest. We wanted to create something that would support all of those use cases and make it easier for customers to stay organized. So that's what we do. And the origin really is like, I mean, it's decades of doing all the stuff, right? So I am a resort skier, backcountry skier, trail runner, mountain biker, recovering long distance triathlete, um, climber, boulderer, like just fill in the blanks. I've kind of like done all this stuff for a long time. So, and I also have a family. I currently have my boys are 17 right now, so I have twin boys, and like the challenges of getting out to do all the stuff are real. Like getting a family up to the ski hill is a hard thing, and uh, so as I started exploring this idea of bringing better gear management into the world, I spent a lot of time talking with other customers. Probably saw like 30 gear garages, um, and just listened to the challenges that people were running into. And it ranged from like the road trips are just chaos. The camp kitchen explodes the moment you get to camp, and that's just like an unpleasant experience, all the way to um, pulling things together to take my kids up to the mountain to get a day skiing in was just like so daunting we didn't go. So like people were not doing these things that were really fundamentally important to like the experience they wanted to give their kids and to them. Um, yeah, so we we took this idea of better gear management, and it started with the idea of like let's make a better gearbox. So like we all have plastic bins in our lives which end up just being like this collection of stuff. And after the triggering moment for me really was on a family ski trip. We had done a 2-day outing to Mount Bachelor, and of course like after day one all the kids' boots, wet boots, go into the bin, as do the gloves, and the gloves make their way down to the bottom. So day two, you can see what's coming, like the wet gloves go on the hands, and nobody's having a good time. Like, why can't we create a better version of a gearbox that is dividable, deals with wet and dirty gear, has pockets so things don't fall to the bottom, And that idea just started cooking. Uh, and over like a bunch of road trips and conversations with my friends, and we started to kind of identify what this thing could be. And from there, it was like bought an industrial sewing machine, started making prototypes and showing them to people, using them in real life, refining them over time. And, ultimately that ended up to a scale business with the product being produced by one of the best factories in the world. And now we're like scratching on international expansion and for our D2C business, scratching on the beginnings of uh, our wholesale business. It's been it's happened like on one hand, it was 3 years of design and development, but since we've launched, it's been really, really fast. So that's a little bit of the background, and we can dig in like way deeper into any of those elements if it'd be helpful.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Greg. And only 7 months in, and it feels like you guys are really onto something big. As I understand it, I think this is not your first time in your career developing and commercializing products. Maybe give the thumbnail sketch of your career before Kitworks and what were the most valuable skills or talents that translated to this new project.
Yeah. So actually, this is kind of my first go at like physical product design. So yeah, which is a whole like that has been fascinating road. So the first kind of couple chapters in my career were kind of defined by building and running direct to consumer and e-commerce businesses. This was starting in like 98 when we had to invent everything from scratch. So there was no like buy now, pay later button. We actually had to like build that with six different vendors coming together. So I did work with uh, big online retailers and banks in my early career, and then had an opportunity to actually build a direct consumer ecom business for a digital projector manufacturer here in Oregon in Focus, like back in '05. And the cool thing about that, so I was like a baby at the time. I think I was like 25. And I had a little bit of experience coming out of the work that I had done in the Bay Area a couple of years before. So had an opportunity to kind of like build that thing from nothing to several tens of millions of dollars, build a team, figure out how to build the thing operationally, create great customer experience, build this, sales, marketing, service side of things. So I kind of had this like GM type of experience in my like really early career, which was amazing. Um, and that I think like provided a bunch of tools to take into the next chapters. So um, I did similar work for the next 10, 12 years or so. And then maybe about 8 years ago, kind of like finally admitted to myself that being in the corporate world was like not the path for me. I had good success there and had worked with some great teams, but because I had had this opportunity to kind of like run my own little thing from very early on, even though it was within larger companies, um, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. So, um, yeah, about 8 years ago, left corporate world, and my wife and I created a little bit of a lifestyle business. A small health and beauty products business on Amazon that gave us freedom really to kind of figure out what the next act was going to be, and like the next couple chapters of our lives that would be a fascinating uh, professional experience, would allow us to work with incredible people and learn every day while bringing something valuable to the world. Um, so that kind of brought us that gave it that freedom was incredibly valuable. It was super scary at first. um, we did prepare for me to leave the corporate world. um, we saved money such that like if the thing didn't make any money for 18 months, we'd be okay. That took a lot of sacrifice, but it gave us all the freedom in the world. um, so during this time, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that have like the idea, or they're like idea people, but they have gotten hung up on like making that break from the, you know, I guess the comforts of being in the corporate world. Like healthcare tends to be the thing. What do I do about healthcare? Well, the answer is simple. You go to the marketplace and you buy yourself a plan for $1,200 a month. That's what you do. It'll be okay. And if it doesn't work out, the worst case scenario, like I spent a lot of time talking to my wife about this. Worst case scenario is that you go back to what you were doing previously and you've had this cool experience and hopefully you've learned something from it. So for the people that have something that they want to see happen in the world, it just like if you plan for it, um, and you vet the idea, and it seems like there's something there, like go pursue it. It's scary as hell, but it is the most important decision that I've made in my professional life for sure. Probably my personal life too.
I think what's interesting is that you also can connect these dots sort of going backwards, right? Like you have now a sort of D2C business that's all e-commerce that looks super, super dialed online, and like you developed that skill over time where you just needed to have like the right idea to go on top of it, and the whole thing was sort of going to work. You knew enough about how e-commerce works. You knew how to set yourself up for success in so many ways, and basically all your jobs leading up to this essentially subsidized that learning so that you could bring in an idea that you really were passionate about and made the whole thing. It's not like you made a complete left turn into something completely new. I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff you learned along the way. I'd be curious though, because you do know so much about e-commerce and everything, was there anything when you did launch Kitworks that you were wrong about?
Oh, everything is a guess right now. So, but okay, real quick, we will get to that. But I think your point is a really good one. So I did come, my background did prepare me to be able to execute on this business model confidently, to understand what it means to build a good business, to understand financials, to understand marketing and customer experience and service and all those things. So it the leap was figuring out if we could build a product that people loved. And that was so if I had to do both of these things, 100% would have needed a different mix of people from the beginning. You know, so like I was able to go through the first few years of this actually to launch, um, as a solo founder with plugging in a handful of specialized contractors to help in areas where they're far better than I am. So I think that like certainly de-risks things a little bit. Um,
So you knew enough to be dangerous.
yeah, you know, I think so. And as people are looking at what to go do, um, leveraging a strength from previous work is it would be very hard to do like a full blank sheet start, like, you know, whatever that would be. But yeah.
So you really only need one of the, I mean, not really, but like having an element, having a strength to play off of in one scenario, then you can add that extra thing in. And so when you combine those two, you have a greater chance of success. Like not starting from a blank sheet of paper, like you were saying, is probably the best case scenario, right? And use and using that previous experience at a job where you have a little bit of a safety net to learn a skill. What a great opportunity for people to really identify an area where they want to develop that might impact the business that they're trying to launch. And so many people are hung up in jobs where they feel like they're not getting opportunities to get to the next step, but like maybe there's an opportunity there for them to actually build experience in a category where they want to use that down the line in their own thing.
And another thing to keep in mind is people want to see cool new things come into the world. I've not run into anybody that has like not been very willing to share their experience, their knowledge, their connections. People are really helpful, and things like this don't happen without like being open to new conversations, building a network. Um, I mean, the fact that I'm so fortunate to be with an amazing factory partner that was going to be able to scale with us, and a great development partner. That happened because of a connection through a friend of a friend of a friend, you know? And we just kind of like chase these relationships to a point that like really good things happen. And when, yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, I think the one thing that I would have probably done earlier is like really aggressively started to build my network of advisors in the outdoor space. So I've got a great, so like kind of like to loop back to the question, like anything that went wrong or mistakes that we made or whatever, like I think I would have put more focus there just to help us shortcut some of the decisions that um, we made that maybe cost us some money or some time. Um, I'll give you a perfect example of like how this type of thinking about like connecting with interesting people worked out. So as we were running up toward launch, I was trying to make this decision, like the product's on the boat, it's inbound. I'm like, where am I going to put it? How are we going to fulfill it? So I've had been talking to third-party logistics companies, and I happened to get connected with Aaron Curson, who he's the founder of P&W Components that makes mountain bike components. And he had been down this path, in founding his company. And he's like, oh man, you do not need a 3PL out of the gate, right? There are days you're going to ship 0 orders. There are so many things you don't know about packaging, about inventory management. Like, figure those things out. And then once you know what you want, go to a 3PL and then they can help you scale. So, like, great advice. So, right now, I've got a basement full of product. I've got a family picking, sometimes dozens of orders a day. And we've learned so much from this. Like, we've brought our shipping costs down by probably 40% since we started. We realized that there are some packaging issues that we would have never seen directly, or we would have caught, 90 days down the line before we could affect them with the next production or with the factory. But there's like all these little things you don't know that by plugging into smart people that have been there, you're like, it's been so helpful to build this network.
So, Greg, I think you described Kitworks as an outdoor gear management system. And as I look at your product, it feels like system is the key word there. Share more about how you arrived at this idea of creating a management system and maybe what value it brings in terms of building the brand, differentiating in the market, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah, it's an essential strategy to the way we're building the product in the company. So what I realized, so we started this product development with this idea of building a better gearbox, and realized pretty quickly, and like, well, that's a nice product. It's a lot better than the alternatives. But like, not every adventure needs a gearbox. Like, sometimes you need like a really good tote, like my mountain bike gear and my ski gear, like they go in a tote. Um, Sometimes you need a duffel. Like, if you're jumping on an airplane for a destination trip, sometimes you need a duffel. Sometimes you need a hard case if you're dealing with camera gear or mounting the thing to the outside of a vehicle. So like, okay, so sometimes you flow fluidly between those platforms. And this is where the idea of everything working together and getting better as a system kind of like starts to gel. So things that are universal are organization. So like, we need to be able to divide things. We need to be able to put pockets on the inside and the outside of our bags, depending on the type of gear we have. We need wet, dirty gear storage. We need things to package smaller items. So like, we're making gear cubes, which are like our version of packing cubes, but like designed for tools and other outdoor gear. And all those things work across the platforms. So we think about, like, we take a lot of inspiration from outside of the outdoor industry. So we call our gearbox, tote, duffel, etc., platforms, which are like very good on their own. In the same way, like an iPhone is like good before you even like load any apps onto it, right? But then like as you add unique capabilities to it, it becomes yours and it becomes really valuable to you. And as your needs change over time, right? You delete an app, add a new one, you add new accessories or remove ones that you're not using. Um, and systems are either like open and available for others to develop on or kind of closed walled garden types of things. So we've decided to build Kitworks as an open system. So we use standards like uh, Molly for attachment, which is like inspired, like comes out of the military, but it's like incredibly universal right now. And we use Velcro for certain things. So like out of the gate, not only do you have access to all of our stuff to customize your product, but thousands of third party products. So like you can see over time how as our customer base grows and the usage of our products grow, people are going to need things far outside of what we can possibly do. And we don't need to provide everything. We just need to provide a great platform for people to build on. So that could spawn, cottage industry building really unique solutions for a particular subset of the market. Um, the other element of the system is that it gains value and utility for the customer as you use it more broadly across your your adventures. So if you have like a gearbox for camp kitchen, but everything else is in like plastic bins and IKEA bags and whatever laundry baskets or whatever people use, um, you start to have like this kind of like disjointed experience between like really super dialed, ready to go, always prepared type of stuff that's in your Kitworks gear, and then chaos over here. So over time, we're seeing our customers like starting with a solution for their mountain bike gear, and then adding a gearbox for their van, and adding a duffel for the trip that they want to take, and then adding more of those things for their family, so their life gets a little bit easier. So the system is like, it's really interesting from a product and utility perspective, but the business model is way better. Like the customer retention and uh, LTVs or lifetime values for customers significantly higher than a traditional product business.
This is like a life upgrade. Dylan, I've got one of these gear totes, and like my quality of life when it comes to mountain biking now is like through the roof.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe a way to drive home the system approach, it seems to me I'm actually looking at the tote right now on mykitworks.com. Everybody's got to go check it out. And it seems like this tote could be part of a larger system, right? Like it seems like the tote itself integrates with the gearbox if you wanted it to. Is that accurate, Greg?
To some degree, yeah. So we have products that do work within our gearbox or within our duffel, not to mention the accessories. But I mean, this is the beautiful thing about a system that has kind of like these multiple platform form factors. Um, you can make them work together as part of the same product. You can create a point solution for a particular event that you're doing. Like coming uh, out of the running world, like we've got customers that are building like really highly kitted out gearboxes for crewing ultras. And we also have people like using our everyday tote to like put their kids' ski gear in, just because it makes parents' lives a lot easier when it comes time to go up to the mountain. So it's choose your own adventure. The way that we talk about it's actually fascinating. One of the things that we learned early on was that there's like the people that are just in their happiest place when they get like a big messy box of Legos and they like create whatever it is that they want out of the individual components. And then there's also customers that are like, I just want the Eiffel Tower and Lego set with the instructions. And like for that reason, we have like build your own or buy a bundle that's specific to a particular use case. So yeah, systems are pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Two comments from me before I pass it back to you, Lucy. Greg, I was going to make the comment that this is the perfect tool and system for people who are going to be crewing an ultramarathon. Obviously, also very practical to throw in the back of your truck when you're a frequent visitor to local trailheads and you want to have all your stuff organized well. And then at home here, my wife and I have just an inside joke where she calls me a systems guy because I'm very particular about like where I put my things, and especially when I travel. So anyway, I'm not an owner of any of your products, but I can see the value in it myself of like when I travel, it's like, okay, I want my running clothes here, but I want my lifestyle clothes here. I want my shoes here. If I need to bring anything fancy because we're going to go out to dinner or whatever, I want to have that segmented off. So anyway, systems guy here, and I very much appreciate the vision here. Lucy, where do you want to go next?
Well, like my background as a videographer, this immediately made sense to me because it's basically the photo block. Any camera guy who's carrying a giant backpack, if you open it up, there's exactly like this same style of system where I've got my lens here, I've got my camera body here, I've got my microphone here. Like my backpacks all look like this. So when I saw Kitworks roll out, I was like, oh, it's a photo block, but just like enlarged for your actual life. Greg, I'd be curious, just like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of photo blocks, and I'm sure that there are photographers probably, tapping into this. I mean, I have one of the cubes that I just use for like my Insta360, my camera stuff that go in my backpack as well. But like, you kind of made this open system where anybody can adapt to it, but I'm sure you're getting lots of anecdotal stuff. Has there been sort of like a big surprise? Surely the people that are doing crewing for trail running, mountain bikers, skiers, climbers, whatever, people that have lots of gear. But have there been surprises of like, I can't believe someone's using that for that?
Oh, every day. It's amazing. So we're at this stage where I still have an opportunity to send like personal emails to everyone, and it's totally unsustainable, right? Like it's the whole polygram, do things that are like intentionally don't
Do
scale.
things that don't scale.
Yeah. And it's so valuable because we get into these conversations with people about how they're using the gear, what they want to see from us, and like they're just like psyched about whatever adventure is coming up, and we learn so much from those. um Outside of the typical use cases for uh camp, overland, ski, mountain bike, whatever, professional barbecue, dog trainers. I didn't think we'd get in the diving space, but like that's a thing. Um, gosh, just got contacted the other day by somebody that is building, like kitting out a vehicle that does like rapid response for like disasters, like a plane crashes and they need things on the ground right away, and trying to like get out of these like kind of uh, I don't know, bottomless pit type of bags into something that's kind of like more dialed, um, so that like their gear is always ready. It's all over the place. One of the first things that we ran into is like the first really big order we got came from a company that does experiential event management. So whatever gear they need to bring these things to life. Yeah, it's fascinating all over.
Oh, yeah. Another great application, like from my personal life of owning two events, plus now with TrailCon, like you'd end up having to shuttle around a whole bunch of gear, and it definitely is valuable when you can organize it well. Before we got started, you mentioned something that I think you called the durable growth engine, and I think you have opinions about e-commerce and the I don't know, debatable success or failure of, that model as it applies towards consumer product. Share a bit about the durable growth engine and about your philosophy with e-commerce in general.
Yeah. So I think so. We're trying to build a company that is is going to be here in 30 plus years, and it's really tempting to just like go throw money at Meta and Google uh, and just basically kind of like run the formula. Like if if LTV to CAC looks good, then we're just going to like keep feeding the beast like crazy. And then when you turn it off, um, you've got maybe some customers, but the foundation of the business is pretty shaky. And I'm seeing a lot of this. The other thing that I'm seeing with D2C businesses today is they're just kind of like nameless, faceless, kind of soulless, like trying to chase content trends. And like, we have a premium product. Is not for everyone. It is for people that actually like care deeply about whatever it is that they're into, whether it's outdoors or experiential event, whatever. And so we need to build around like our customer relationships first and foremost. And this is where we see great success in building lifetime value over time. So we're trying to build a company here that minimally invests in traditional performance marketing. So we are investing there, but it's a relatively small percentage of our marketing investment. It's enough that we get good signal such that we know what works and what doesn't, so that we could choose to scale it if we needed to. But our bigger investments are in seeding product and earned media and creating great content and making sure that we have enough people on hand that are connecting with customers to help them with whatever, like pre-sale, post-sale, just like being part of their world and being helpful. Events, incredibly valuable. They're expensive and they take a lot of time, but and there's just something about like being face to face with your customers that cannot be replaced with the digital experience. And since we don't have brick and mortar retail quite yet, those events play a really important role to raising awareness and things like jumping on podcasts. It's quite efficient and it gives us an opportunity to really tell our story. There are a lot of ways to build a company, and investing in performance marketing is seductive, but it is only a way, and it's kind of an easy way.
Yeah.
So, and if you think about the value created in the company, take a equivalent companies worth $50 million, and one spends 3% of marketing on performance, and the other spends 50, which is going to like gain the higher multiple when it comes time to like transact with a strategic or financial like investor at the end. Like it's no comparison. Mm-hmm. So if we can build something that is driven by like word of mouth and really smart allocation of our marketing funds, like that's what we're here to do. And it's intellectually way more interesting too.
Yeah.
Like question that like incrementing the budget on Meta is just,
it's super interesting. Real quick, Lutzi, because I just want to say this because it's on the top of my head. One of the big pieces of news in kind of the not really outdoor space, but apparel, sporting wear space, athleisure, was the return of Tyler Haney to Outdoor Voices this week. So trying to resuscitate the brand with the original founder. And I was listening to her on a podcast yesterday, just trying to learn a little bit about how this was all coming to be. And wow, she is a very fascinating, smart, impressive founder in person. But she made the point that, of course, Outdoor Voices was one of the early darlings of e-commerce. And with that boom of e-commerce first brands, and she made the point that effectively you could make the judgment at this stage that thesis that a lot of people invested in for a long period of time ended up being a failure. In other words, you cannot build a durable brand e-commerce only playing the performance marketing game. So Greg, I think you're on the right track here, thinking about things a little bit more holistically, but also being opportunistic and understanding that performance marketing, Meta, Google do have a place in the mix. Just in all likelihood, if you want to build something that lasts 30 years, it can't be your only method of customer acquisition. Anyway, wanted to make that point. Go ahead, Lutzi.
I think also what you're both circling around is this idea of attention versus intention. And Greg, I want to circle back really quickly because you use an acronym called CAC, Consumer Acquisition Cost, which not everybody listening to this pod is going to understand. But really, that's like you would pay X amount on a meta ad in order to get. So the consumer acquisition cost, I pay $50 for an ad that converts into a $100 sale. There I have my consumer acquisition costs, right? So I guess what I'm curious about, you're the expert when it comes to e-commerce specifically. What advice would you give e-commerce brands out there? Because you kind of went through like, oh, you can do events, you can do brick and mortar, you can do this, but like if someone came to you that is maybe 7 months behind you looking to launch e-commerce, what are you sharing with them? What would you tell someone that's in that scenario?
I would go over the top to connect with customers personally, especially in the early days when it's like onesie twosie, and you can do that. You're going to learn way more like what's working, what's not, where the product portfolio needs to go. Um, you know, I don't know. There's kind of no way around having to kind of like light up all of the channels. So, our own social, um, some paid social, email, um, ambassador and athlete type of relationships, events. Like you kind of have to do well. You need to be thoughtful about like how you implement those things, but you kind of need the whole mix. Honestly, I would be hard to do this without. And I guess another part of the question is like you have to be really honest with yourself. Like observe your customers. Like if your product is something that's easy to buy online and the value is easy to communicate online, then like go down that path. For us, like we're doing quite well online for product. Like our average order values are like way north of $300. Our gearbox is almost $300. Our totes are like close to $200. Uh they're super premium product, but like that's hard to communicate fully online. So when we just did our first couple of events within the last 2 months. And when people touch and feel the product and they see like, oh, I want that. That is quality. That's strong signal that like we really need to start the retail and the retail side of things and expand events. Like we just need to get in front of more people because quality is a hard thing to communicate in some channels. So I don't know. I would just the most important thing is to listen uh, and learn as fast as possible. And I can't think of a better way to do that and talk to customers. This is where Meta gets it right. So Zuckerberg says like our job is to like learn as and uh, improve faster than anybody else, and that's our competitive advantage. And I kind of think he's right on with that.
Mm. Okay, great. So another couple of things we were talking about before we pressed record. You made the comment of you're sort of at the stage where you're wrestling with what opportunities to chase and what to deprioritize. I think something that we can all identify with and that is critical when you're building your own thing, especially in the very early phases, which you're in now. And also the idea of fundraising. And these two things are connected, right? Because determining which opportunities to chase also, you end up with decisions about how you're going to finance chasing those opportunities. So let's take them one at a time. Explain how you're wrestling with this idea of what opportunity to chase practically right now in the early phases.
Um, yeah, initially it was like anything, because we had to learn, and they came a little bit more slowly. But now we've started to create frameworks for where we're going to put our energy and attention and resources. So, for example, we have this product that can go pretty much into like, I don't know, hundreds of different applications, but we are putting our focus on camp and overland, mountain bike, ski, and dabbling in trail run. so that puts, although we've got people using this for fishing and hunting and paddling and photography at, like all over the place, we just can't, like, there's some value in focus, right? When you're for everyone, you're not for anyone, and like that type of thing. But it's a good filter for us. So that helps us figure out like which types of folks do we want to partner with when we seed product. What type of content do we want to make? Where do we want to put our emphasis on bundles? When we talk to a retailer, how do we want to see the stuff merchandised? It'll be around those use cases, so everything kind of starts to ladder up. Um, and then, I mean, so you're totally right. Like the investment thing is part of the reason. So to back up there, what was in order to build the business model that we want, this kind of like durable company built for the longer term, it really requires a level of um, like being responsible for our own direction without kind of like some of the pressure and that would be imposed by, say, if you brought in an institutional investor early that had to deliver return to their LPs or whoever their investors are. So we decided to self fund the thing through all the development and through this point. But I've also realized that we need now, like we're getting to this point where we need amazing talent to take it to the next level. Um, we need to expand what we're doing. Like what we're doing is working really well, but like we can probably triple, quadruple, 5x the thing a lot faster. But we're raising from, number one, like everybody we're raising from is a customer that gets what we're doing, and everybody that we talk to, we explain our vision of this durable kind of growth engine that we're trying to create, and uh, is aligned with our kind of longer time horizon on growth. Should we need it in order to build the company that we want? So we will be able to tackle more opportunities, but we're going to be able to like probably put more resources on the priority areas that we know are working now and just kind of build that flywheel.
Okay, so but get more specific about how you're thinking about funding the business. I mean, we talk about this in a lot of episodes with founders, and the truth is that there's trade-offs when you do take in outside capital, and really when you don't take outside capital too. So I don't know. I think people would be interested to hear how you specifically are viewing those trade-offs and what direction you're leaning towards.
So to me, the biggest factor here in deciding whether to raise or not was if we could create a structure and align with like-minded investors that also saw like not only what we wanted to do with the product, that believed in the vision, but also believed in the vision for how we were going to build a company. So we are raising uh, from angels, really. No institutional money coming in now. We're raising on a safe, which is a also came out of, speaking of Paul Graham, from Y Combinator, a simple agreement for future equity. So it allows us to raise quickly um, from the type of investors that are well aligned, and then as we get bigger and we need to take more capital in, say to, I don't know, really establish Europe, or really, I don't know, expand our, like create our own brick and mortar, or like these bigger investments down the line, that we've got this really strong, like 1.5 to 2 years of foundational company building work behind us, culture building work. Our investors are seeing the growth, and hopefully they'll fund the next round. We're also doing, here's another thing. Um, Building a product company is complicated from a cash flow perspective, for sure, and becoming even more complicated with like the uncertainty of tariffs and all that, like what's going on in the world now. But like buying inventory costs a lot of money. And we were able to get to a point with self-funding where we've got like a good bit of inventory now, and we're reinvesting in inventory growth that will allow us to pace at a certain rate, right? But if we were to triple next week, or like in 3 months from now, we'd have a totally different set of cash flow problems to deal with. So we're trying to tackle that one a little bit differently. And the like jury's still out on this, but I believe that rather than, so I'm thinking about the raise that we're doing now as strategic financing for growth. So this is for people, for marketing, for product line development, those things that are fundamental and like scale our ability to grow the thing. And then I'm thinking about operational kind of like inventory related cash flow separately. So I do not want our strategic investment necessarily all going into inventory growth. So like we're working on developing a internally managed line of credit also with our investors to fund that. So it's another way for an investor to participate in the growth of Kitworks with really good information and confidence that they're going to get the short-term return on basically PO financing, while also investing in the strategic long-term growth with a future equity investment.
It's interesting, right? Because if you hire the right people and you do all the right things, you're gonna have an inventory problem. So it almost like one thing kind of creates the other
It's
in a
so
way.
hard. I mean, getting the mix right, colorways, like we're not chasing seasonal colorways, but even like having three colorways, we got that one way wrong. By the way, people like blue a lot more than I expected. Um, yeah, it's hard. We're learning so much every day. And this is where like plugging into really great advisors that have been down this road that may be able to help us kind of shortcut the learning process, especially when we get other people's money involved. We have to build that knowledge to an even greater degree in-house. Like now we're responsible not only for our own investment in this thing and our own people, but other people's money too. So it's different, but I'm really excited to have other folks along for the journey. They bring, obviously they bring capital in the equation, but connections and support and uh, strategic guidance. Like these are smart, experienced people. It's amazing to have this crew in the mix now.
I want to talk about advisors a little bit, and maybe this is slightly self-serving, but can you I mean, we haven't ever really asked this question on the podcast before, but I know sort of the answer to this question. You know, you're part of the Second Nature community, you're in the Slack channel, like that's how we all met. You've been at two of the meetups that we've had, and you've made connections at some of those. Like, can you just talk a little bit about like the ways that you're building those relationships with advisors and kind of getting the brand out there in that way? I don't know the right way to ask this question, but like I think that like in a way, being in this community, being part of the Second Nature community on Slack and everything has made like a actual difference in your business. Is that fair?
Oh
Is
yeah,
Aaron Lutzi an
dude.
advisor? Is Aaron Lutzi an official advisor?
We'll talk about that after the call. Uh, so yeah, okay. So first off, you guys are matchmakers. The Second Nature community. I actually connected with Nate Helming, who I has been on the pod before, and we've now been working together for 3 months, and he is an integral part of the early growth of this company, plugging into all kinds of like growth initiatives. And um, yeah, so I think Nate's going to be coming on as like one of our first key hires. So that's really cool. That happened out of
Wow.
the Second Nature community. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
Yep.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
Helming is an absolute winner too.
Yeah.
So
He's so like he's great. Um, it's like especially in these early days, like having another founder that's been through this stuff that comes from a
yes.
different angle than I have in the past, like just adds a richness to our conversation and our decision making that
Oh,
um, is hard to come by otherwise. Like there's like an in the trenches, like been there,
Totally. Yeah,
Like,
he's been through some wars, and I'm thinking now too, he's very skilled with content and stuff, and I think more and more, especially as we just talked about, not wanting to totally rely on Meta and Google, it should be up to you guys to tell your own story, and Nate is incredibly skilled in doing that, and I'm sure could add those key skills to the early phases here with Kitworks too.
totally. Yep. That's a big part. Like the mission of this company is to enable and inspire our customers' best adventures. And there's like this big inspiration thing that's like community, content, events, all that. Like he brings a mindset there that, and just experience there that I don't have. So like, this is also like, as we're building the company and figuring out who we need to plug in, I mean, like we're in the early days. Everybody has to be good at a lot of things and be able to learn really fast. So, um, like we can't just hire a straight up product designer, right? Like that person needs to be able to wear that hat and then also be able to like show up at an event or do a podcast and like help us spread the word, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So key.
So to the question, yeah. So thank you guys, by the way.
Out here changing people's lives.
Yeah, for sure. The advisor side of things, it's another one of these, like you just have to continue to pursue the network and connections with interesting new people. I'm really fortunate to have some like great kind of like friends and adventure buddies that we spend a lot of time with that bring uh, investing experience, that bring startup experience, that have funded growth, that have exited, that have built teams, built product. Like, um, but those folks are now starting to connect me into a different group of people that have like done this work at scale for outdoor companies. So like, there's a lot that we don't know about spinning up operations like internationally or with retail. We're learning a lot, but I mean, there's a different set of problems there. So I think like that's how the connections are happening. Honestly, it's just like being open to interesting, like we meet so many great people, which is one of the reasons that we're building this thing anyway. I mean, like I'm 50. I launched this company when I was 50 because I wanted something really fascinating to do and to bring in the world over the next like 15 years. Like life is long. So
Yeah.
it's like about people, it's about learning, it's about solving interesting problems. And like, yeah, the advisor thing just comes through being open to kind of like meet with kind of anybody that looks like might be interesting, including like customers. Some like we've had great referrals from customers.
Awesome. All right, so before we get to BPC, we also talked about tariffs before we got started, and this being your first time developing, manufacturing, commercializing a consumer product, you probably have advisors in your corner maybe helping you think about tariffs, but it feels like kind of a challenging environment to launch a business into. Talk about how you guys are dealing with the tariff environment right now.
I don't know that anybody has a playbook for this thing. We're really incredibly fortunate that we're still small and super lean and in the scrappy mode and, don't have a huge payroll, for example. Um, so I mean, when we launched the product, we made some kind of strategic decisions around pricing, that would allow us to kind of like move a little bit if we needed to without like really disrupting um, our kind of price points and how we are in the market. We also like we have some freedom given our size that bigger companies don't. Like the cost of the additional reciprocal tariffs are going to eat into our margin. But we can do things like we're doing like a little bit of discounting for new customers. We'll probably reduce that, be really selective about that. We're doing some bundling, like some discounts on bundling. We'll probably have to reduce that or be more selective with that. And we happen to be with like the best craftspeople in the world, the best factory in the world in Vietnam. We're going to weather this one. Like we're going to figure out a way to, maybe operate on slightly smaller margins, be smart about, and this goes back to the durable growth engine. Like if our business was, based on spending a certain amount on performance and we had to like scale that back, our revenue might like take a real hit. We haven't incremented our performance budget since like the third month that we were in business, and the business has almost tripled since then. So like I don't know. I just think setting the foundation has helped us a lot, but I don't know. We'll see. It has a real impact. I mean, our tariffs were our import duties were 17.6% when we got started. Now they're going to be that plus 20%, I think, on August
Dang.
1st. It's like,
Which is tomorrow, I think, as we're recording
yeah,
this,
it
the
sucks.
day after.
I do not see how this is. I thought maybe this was like a zero sum game, but it's like it's not. It's going to have way more negative impact on US companies. Like I'm eating that. The factory is like, they operate on relatively slim margins to start with. My customers are going to have to eat a little part of that. We don't have a supply chain to build this stuff, as a country to build this type of product in the US. And even if we wanted to build one, like what investor is going to invest in like a textile factory versus a data center? Like
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen. So I don't know. I think we need to be patient with this one and just like be lean and scrappy, and hopefully companies that are like further down this path that maybe a little bit more established are taking this opportunity to kind of like figure out what their durable growth engine looks like, and hopefully companies will be stronger because of it, but it's going to be super painful in the short term.
Good luck, Greg. Amazing. Lucy, anything else you want to get to before BPC?
I think we've got through a fair bit. I mean, I still feel like we only just scratched the surface, but you're only 7 months into this whole thing. And so surely there's another update in a year from now where you're going to have even more key learnings, and we're going to see the durable growth engine be tested and hopefully deliver. I think I've been keeping my eye on Kitworks since you launched and since you came into the community, and now that I have one and my quality of life is increased, like I don't know. I just feel like I'm really curious to see and excited to see where you take the whole thing, because I see so many, especially from using it. I just see so many applications for it, and my head goes to like, what happens when like you get a military contract for like 1 billion of these things, or whatever. Like I think there's so many other people that are gonna uncover this and be like, oh wait, and so it's gonna be fun to watch and sort of cheer you on from the sidelines. I think this is really cool.
Thank
Greg,
you.
real
I
quick, maybe
appreciate that. Yep.
maybe we can further evaluate the power of the Second Nature community. It wasn't clear to me whether you're still raising money right now. Are you still raising money? Is there a way that people could be in touch with you about maybe trying to join this rocket ship that's just getting off the launch pad?
Yeah, I would be interested and open to talking to anyone that is aligned with building something really powerful, based on the way we described this. Like anybody that is like, yeah, I want to see that come into the world as a company and as a product. Yeah, I please reach out through the community, uh, direct message on Slack or whatever, and let's talk for sure.
Hell yes.
Thank you.
Sweet.
See,
Yeah,
Lucy, I've been saying we need to raise a little fund here and start investing in our guests' companies here.
Yeah, I'm in. Sign me up.
All right, BPC, Greg, you're our guest. You get us started. You know the drill here. Brand, product, or content to share with the second naturalist.
yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier, I like to take a lot of inspiration from outside the outdoor industry, and right now I'm really putting a lot of value on uh, people that like know how to make really good decisions. And I think investors are a fascinating place to look for that. So actually, can I have two?
Sure.
Please.
They
Yeah.
kind of go together. So the first one, I'm rereading Ray Dalio's Changing World Order,
Great book.
which, I just listened to your conversation about China from a couple days ago, and this has some frameworks and ways of thinking about the world that I think are fascinating, and it's worth coming back to um, on its own right. But as a way of thinking and frameworks, it's also pretty powerful. And then a podcast that I've come back to again recently, and I'm just like binging right now, is Invest Like the Best with
The
Patrick O'Shaughnessy.
best. That's my BPC every week, dude.
He's so good. Like, he asks great questions.
He's the best,
to really understand.
the best
Yeah.
podcaster in the game for sure.
You're speaking Dylan's language here.
Yeah.
Right on. So that's the theme. Learn from investors.
Yeah. All right, real quick, I just want to build off this one. The episode of Invest Like the Best that went up this week with Ramtin Naimi. Did you listen to that one, Greg? It just went up yesterday. Yeah, oh, it's so good. It's 2 hours. And they have a companion profile in written form on their website, joincolossus.com. I really like how they did that too, by having sort of the long form written profile of an individual, and they gave you 5 days to read it before then the podcast goes up. And the combination of the two is actually really interesting. And Patrick O'Shaughnessy has done such a good job of establishing himself as the guy for like people who never do media. Like when they go on a podcast, it's his. And this guy this week, Ramtin Naimi, who I had never heard of before, who's apparently like the hottest young venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. This is the story. He's like never done any press, intentionally kept like all the information about himself off the internet. And now he's like, I want to tell my story a little bit. And he went to the GOAT podcast host, Patrick O'Shaughnessy. Invest Like the Best is such a good show. And I mean, like, I know nothing about the world of finance except for what I've learned on that show, and I still find it fascinating. Anyway, all right, I'll go next here. I just learned of a brand yesterday called Minted New York. Have you guys heard about this? MintedNewYork.com.
I think I know, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a running brand, and it's sort of kind of got a Bandit vibe going back to the OG Second Nature early episodes where we talked about Bandit all the time. Obviously based in New York. But I think what makes it interesting is that they blend a lot of categories. I think they started, again, I just learned about this brand yesterday, but I think they started with just a small capsule of running apparel. And now they've launched a energy gel. They have leather goods like wallets. They even have like some jewelry and menswear, like casual menswear. So I just think it's really interesting what this brand is doing, sort of like being running lifestyle centered and having a performance tinge to it with performance apparel and nutrition products, but then also going a little bit more into the lifestyle lane with like knit sweaters and leather wallets and jewelry. I just think it's novel and interesting. And if you look at their Instagram, I mean, they have 110,000 followers. Like, it feels like I should have learned about this brand a lot earlier than I did. And now I'm going to be very excited to follow their progress in years to come. It looks like they've done one collab with Saucony last year, a shoe. So I don't know, it feels like ground floor of another rocket ship here. Kitworks on one hand, and maybe Minted New York could be pioneering a new model for brands where you sort of blend categories in a way that might build a very differentiated, but also maybe a bigger business.
I like that idea of blending categories too, where it's not like, well, we're a running apparel brand, so then we just make, shirts, shorts, and socks, and maybe a hat, like the fact that you're like, actually, I'm just going to break the frame a little bit here. And what are the things in my life that I, use? what are the things that I care about, and why don't we make those things? Like, I think that's great. All right, I'm gonna bring it home, you guys. I just got the Insta360 X5. This is a 360 camera. It's actually smaller. If you're watching the YouTube video, it's actually smaller than my DJI gimbal that I use. And actually, what's kind of interesting is like this gimbal is cool and all, but it kind of moves around. Whereas, and it only captures, you know, what's in front of it. Whereas this has like no moving parts on it, and it's capturing everything in a 360. I've actually was thinking about this the other day, and in my entire cycling career, my brand loyalty has, you know, changed frames, pedals, tires, like somewhat frequently over the many years. But there's one category that I actually haven't ever considered changing up until like this month, and that was the camera that I use for capturing all the action. I've always had a GoPro. I've never used anything else. And I got my hands on this Insta360, and I was like, why haven't I ever considered anything else? This has way more ways to like attach itself to like your bike and your helmet and whatever. I went out and did like a little test shoot yesterday, and I came back with so many new shots that I've never had before. Like, this is way better than a GoPro. And I kind of feel like, Dylan, same thing. Like, this has existed for a long time, and I've just been sleeping on it. Like, what am I doing? So, wow, just wow. Insta360. I know it's been out for a minute, but now I got one, and I'm not going to shut up about
Yeah,
it.
Ryan just got one too. So you can, when you capture the 360, then you can say if you wanted to use it for social, you'd be able to cut it in whatever those dimensions are that make it a reel.
Yeah, you could cut it in any shape or size because it's shooting in 360 the entire time. Actually, it shoots at 8K, which is crazy. So it's like crazy crisp.
So that's not a DJI product.
No. Insta360 is like a completely different company.
Will that replace this, do you think?
You could definitely. I mean, I think it's like, okay, for the DJI, I'm probably going to use it more vlog style because it actually taps into a microphone, where the Insta360 is more action, but you could absolutely carry this around and get stuff. And, you know, it's one of those things where I was on a ride with my kids, and, you know, my kid's riding in front of me, but like maybe I'm like ripping a tabletop or something like that over one of the jumps. And now I can actually have a clip of both. So I'm like doing sort of double duty on a ride. I get twice as much usable footage out of every single ride. I can show something totally different. And I don't know, like there's just so many different ways to attach this to that. I feel like they actually thought about that a lot more. GoPro, it's like chest mount, helmet mount, best of luck, anything else. Where I feel like the Insta360 has a lot more mounting options, which is getting you like better, cooler angles. I don't know.
Is that a Chinese brand?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with DJI. But
I was gonna say, I mean, another just example of really interesting, innovative manufacturing, combines, you know, high-tech product with like, you know, an aesthetic, minimal, you know, in a small package, really practical, probably a, you know, a reasonable price. How much did that cost?
I don't know.
My point is, does GoPro stand a chance in this competitive environment?
I mean, I sort of feel like, you know, GoPro's doing their best to keep up. I mean, they were the trendsetter for so long, and then all these other brands came in, and, you know, there were a ton of action cameras for a long time. At one point, you know, there was Contour, there was, you know, Sony had a camera, everybody had a camera, and now it's sort of down to like Insta360, DJI, and GoPro. And I don't think that GoPro has like a meaningful lead. I mean, Insta360 is just about to release a drone. Like, GoPro tried to do a drone a super long time ago, and it failed miserably.
See, this is the perfect extension from our China discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you could substitute, you could see the same thing that's going to happen to GoPro here. Just they're not going to be able to compete on quality of product, and they won't be able to make it at the same price. You could see that happening to a lot of different consumer electronic things, you know, like Apple. Yikes. What happens if Chinese brands GoPro Apple, if you know what I mean?
Could be interesting. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
We're going way down the tangent here, Greg.
For me, I'm just excited to have a really awesome camera that's better than everything I've been using.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, let's focus on just the normal product recommendation and not talk about the existential consequences of its success in the marketplace. Greg, man, this was super fun. Any closing comments for the audience here?
If you're interested in managing your gear better, I have to plug mykitworks.com, or shoot us a line if you need help getting all geared up. But I mean, beyond the plug, just like thank you guys so much for what you're doing. This community obviously has like had a big impact on our business. It is so fun to get together with people in real life and have some fascinating conversations, meet some great people. So yeah, thanks guys. Like really appreciate what you're doing for the industry. It's pretty great.
Awesome. We appreciate you too, Greg, and thanks for saying that. All right, to the Second Nature community, go get in Slack. Come on. Go get in touch with Greg, send him a DM, and then invest in his company. Follow us on Substack, secondnature.media to get our newsletter every Friday. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, where we can always do better at actually posting and being active. But if you give us a follow there, it'll encourage us. For Aaron Lutzy, Greg Mills, I'm Debo. See you next time.